Welcome to my channel. For those of you who do not know, my name is Hannah. I am an American living in Switzerland. I got married in June to my husband John Mark, who is Swiss, and we moved here about 7 months ago. So I thought I would share with you the differences that I found between living in the States and living in Switzerland, because as much as I expected it to be the same, it's not. It's not in so many different ways. So I thought I would share with you. So the first thing would be food. And anytime anyone who had been to Switzerland found out I was coming to visit, they would come and find me and say, you need to understand that the food is amazing and you need to eat everything. And it's true. They have really great bread, wine, chocolate, and cheese. And they eat so much cheese. I've never seen anything like it. It's kind of crazy, like so much cheese. But it's really good if you can eat that much. And so day to day, it's a little bit different than the States. They're eating a lot of bread, a lot of cheese, a lot of yogurt, a lot of vegetables, not so much a ton of meat, which really surprised me. Maybe like once or twice a week, but way less than what I was used to. And they don't really do any snacking. So it's very much breakfast, lunch, dinner, not really any processed food, not a ton of desserts unless you have guests over and you have an appetizer. Like, you're just sticking to your main meals, which I'm like, where are all the snacks? I don't understand. So I'm used to, in the States, you can probably go in someone's pantry and you can find Oreos or crackers or chips or something like that, and not so much here. But they're really healthy. They're known to be, I think, the top third country in the world for health. So something, even with all that cheese, something is working for them. The next thing would be the culture around food. And this is something that I figured out real fast into dating. It was definitely an area where John Mark and I were butting heads because we just had really different expectations around culture of food. So here, you would not eat until everyone has food. You wouldn't eat by yourself, basically. And so I grew up eating breakfast with my family and eating dinner with my family, and then lunch I kind of just would make my own thing and eat. And so I remember we were dating and I would make myself lunch and he would be like, why would you do that? I don't understand. And even now, I had an experience recently where a friend came over and I was like, welcome to our home. You make yourself like at home here. If you're hungry, just like go get food. You don't have to ask. And I remember her just laughing and being like, you're very American, because she would never go get food and eat with, like, the thought of her going and getting food and eating without me is so foreign. They would never do it. And so it's definitely an area where it's just like it's just like ingrained in me. So even here, until everybody has a plate of food and they're all sitting down, even if you're at a huge party, you wait till they all have food, you say bon appetit, and then you eat. And with drinking, you wait till everybody has a drink. You do not take a sip until everyone is ready. Then you say santé, which means to your health. Like, you cheers, you look each other in the eyes, and then you can drink. So food here is definitely a event that is around gathering and people doing it together. Like, even at lunch time, the kids at school come home and they eat lunch with their families. So it's really beautiful. It's just something I have to remember. Like, I'm aware to eat, like I wouldn't start eating dinner until everyone has their food. But it's just a little bit of a mentality switch that I have to try to pay attention to and remember how to, like, respect and honor the culture and kind of take part there. Next would be the language. So I grew up in the States where primarily people are speaking English around me. Everything is written in English. If I go to the store, if I go to the bank, most likely everybody is going to be able to communicate with me. Everything's kind of catered to what I understand. And there are 4 different languages here, none of which I speak, but there is Swiss German. So it's a really kind of intense dialect of German that is spoken by the highest population of people here. Then there is French, which is what is spoken in the area we live in, and what I'm currently going to school to learn. And then there's Italian, which is in the southern part, and there is Romansh. I think that's how you say it. It's an older language, not spoken by many people. I don't think we even know anybody who speaks it, but from what I hear, it's similar to Italian. So it's really common that here people speak multiple different languages, a world that I'm entering but am not fully familiar with. John Mark speaks English, French, Swiss German, German. I don't know if you count both of those, but and so I'm used to just go to my in-laws for dinner, and there's French, and there's Swiss German, and it's flipping back and forth, and it's all over, and I'm like, this is not what my family dinners were like. But I think it's super interesting. I think it's fascinating to be able to speak to different groups of people and to be able to communicate in multiple different ways. Next would be measurements. And here they use the metric system, which is basically like the rest of the world. And in the States, which I found out is one of 2 countries, I don't know why I didn't know this, uses the imperial system. So I went from using inches and feet and pounds and Fahrenheit to Celsius, grams, meters, kilometers, etc., etc. And they use a 24-hour clock. So I've never done so much math in my life, and basically cooking a meal has gone from simply that to me becoming a mathematician, trying to convert all my recipes that are American. But it's a better system, honestly, and when people look at me and are like, this is how cold it is outside, my brain is still like, this means nothing to me. But eventually it will all stick in my brain. The next thing would be the school system. So in the States, I'm used to starting school with kindergarten, going all the way up to year 18, graduating, most likely going to college, whether that's community college or major university, getting a degree, etc., etc. Here, you start school, I think, around the same age, but at middle school, you basically have to make the decision, do I want to go to a trade school, or do I want to go to university? And so if you go to trade school, you would go through an apprenticeship, and you would learn something like carpentry. You would become a hairdresser, you could work at the post office, you could become an electrician, lots of different things, or you could go to university and you could get some sort of degree. So you decide that in middle school, and then when you're 15 or 16, if you decide to do an apprenticeship, you start a 4-year apprenticeship school where you're doing a combination of working, on-the-job experience, and you're going to school, you're taking classes, you're having tests, etc. And then when you finish, like, you're getting paid a little bit during this, and then you finish and you go directly into your field. If you choose to not do this, then you do 4 years of high school, and then, which is just prep for college, and then you go to university. So I found that people here are really qualified for their jobs, because if they're, say, a jewelry maker, they've gone to school for 4 years in order to do this. It's a really different system, and there's a much higher value for manual labor or different jobs like that in a way that I don't think there is in the States. And then people end up being really qualified for whatever job that they do have. Also, when you go to college here, it's basically paid for by the government. So you are paying like $1,000, $2,000 for books a year, and that's it. And that is not like it is in the States, where if you're going to like in-state state school, you're maybe paying like I don't know, $10,000 a year plus. And that's like a really cheap option. Everything is way smaller, and this is definitely Europe across the board. There's just not as much space. America's way bigger. I think that our population is smaller than the state that I lived in, but the homes are smaller, cars are smaller, everything is, and there are the bells because we live next to a church. People don't have huge homes here or really big cars if they don't need it, or like multiple cars. The buildings, everything is just going to be way smaller than what you see in the States. Transportation is really different here too. If you are in the States and you don't have a car, unless you are in New York City or Chicago or some major city with a really good transportation system, you are screwed. You're not going to get anywhere. Here, you cannot drive until you're 18. So in the States, it's 16. Here, it's 18. But you can drive a moped at 14, and you can drive a motorcycle at 16. So it's not uncommon for a lot of young people to be driving motorcycles. It's not uncommon for people to not have license because they just can walk, take the bus, take the train. It's very efficient. It's very on time. You can get pretty much anywhere that you need to go, and you don't need a car to get there. Again, this is very much a European thing, but I've noticed that Europeans and Swiss people particularly have a much bigger mentality around rest than they do in the States. States is a little bit more like go mentality, whereas here people take longer holidays. So here you're going to be taking a minimum of 4-week vacation, whereas in the States the average vacation people take is 1.5 to 2 weeks for an entire year. So yeah, so what they're taking as a minimum is double of what we're getting on average, which is like kind of wild. And then also everything is closed on Sundays here. So you can go to a gas station and maybe get some food there, but outside of that, everything else is going to be shut down. So there is a natural rhythm in Switzerland that kind of forces people in certain ways to slow down and stop, which is what it was not many years ago in the States. It's kind of nice. After I got used to remembering that I need to get my groceries by Saturday or I would not have it on Sunday, it's kind of a nice forced Sabbath rhythm of rest that I enjoy. The next would be safety, and this is for all my aunts and my mother who is watching. Just pay attention to this part. It's super safe here. You can walk around without the same sort of precautions or awareness that I feel like you'd have to have in the States. There's always areas, I guess, that you'd have to be aware of, but even here at noon, I was like, why are there children everywhere? And I realized it's because they walk home by themselves to have lunch with their families. They walk to school back without any parental supervision. They don't need it just because it's that safe. And lastly would be the mindsets. And Swiss people are incredibly efficient. Everything that they do is the way that it's been done. There's not a ton of shift in that way. And whatever they do it really well. Where I think there's more of a mentality in the States of kind of like thinking outside of the box, a lot more open for change. So both are really healthy, both are really different in their own rights. So it's been kind of fun to see them collide with Jean-Marc and I. He doesn't fit into the mold, the Swiss mold perfectly, but we both really like the idea of doing things really well and thinking outside of the box, color outside of the lines, just a little bit, see what you can do. So that's it. There's 1,000 other things that I've noticed. I could probably make multiple parts to this video, but I hope it was insightful. I hope you learned something that you didn't know before. And I will be making videos every week, so make sure to like, subscribe, and I will be seeing you soon. Bye.